Evening Auckland. Stream is not. Oh, there we go. We'll get underway in a sec. Just making sure everything's working. Evening, Cobain. Evening, Danny. We'll get underway in a sec. Cool, lovely. Kia ora, good evening and welcome. This is something of a follow-up to the OFC Pro League video I did a couple months back when the teams were revealed and went through how the competition worked. This will be a bit more of an in-depth review into the squads and my predictions for the coming season. So, start off, we'll go through them in alphabetical order, which means my very own Auckland FC. Start off with. I'm pretty happy with the squad. Brought a few names back, one name in particular back from Europe that should catch the eyes. That's Oscar Falds. And a bit of a surprise is the captain of the squad, Tas Mortakudis. Western Sydney, played for Western Sydney and Perth Glory. Very experienced, very surprised we got a player of that quality for this squad. Issa Prinz, we also managed to snag from Wellington Olympic after his very impressive season, where they won the Chatham Cup, won the Central League, but fell short in the National League Grand Final. And then a couple of players that have been brought in from the first team, Liam Gillian and Luka Visilic. Liam Gillian, I think this is going to be a very good level for him. He was very prolific at Northern League and OFC Champions League level, so I am expecting him to sort of up his game from what we saw in the A-League and hopefully bag a few goals tomorrow. It'd be lovely to see. And Luka Visilic, 17 years old, had a very strong start in the Oz Cup. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out for him getting his first A-League appearance, but they've clearly put their faith in him, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Mortakudis and Visilic as the starting pairing at the back. A few other reserve players have been called up as well. Aston Burns, Blake Callanan, and Eli Jones. And yeah. Yeah, Sam Cosgrove would be an interesting one. However, the scheduling for OFC Pro League doesn't quite allow for that, unfortunately. Moving on to probably one of the more interesting teams in the league, Buller FC. This is a very interesting squad. It took a little bit of, with the signing announcements, it took a little bit of time for the squad to really get going in terms of how it was shaping up. They brought in a few local lads, likes of Wasasala and whatnot. Then all of a sudden they started announcing all the National League players, Dunn, Beg, and honestly the big one probably of the National League lot, Semi Nabenu. He was in and about the Auckland FC first team during pre-season, started against Brisbane Roar, and an absolute just brilliant signing on Buller FC's part. I was very surprised when this happened. I thought maybe Chevnier, but this is a incredible signing. And then to follow that up, they then went out and got Fergus Gillian, who was a regular starter for New Zealand, the Under-20 World Cup, was regularly on the bench for the Wellington Phoenix first team. Like just two absolute gun signings. Then on top of that, they brought Scott Wyra back from England, spent time in the Stoke Academy, I believe had a short stint at Newcastle United, played a little bit of football for Finn Harps in the Irish League, and has been generally just bouncing throughout the lower divisions of England from everywhere from 6th to 9th division. But by Fijian standards, he is a brilliant player and is going to add a lot to this team. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me about Luka Vasilic. Yeah, he has had some dominant performances in the Northern League and the National League this season. Yeah, Didier Prez was just brilliant. That's just like it was the perfect cherry on top for the squad because they had some decent keepers. It looked like Matt Ford was going to be the number one potentially, but then they announced Didier, and yeah, I think this is a team that could pull off a few upsets. Adam Supic is also another name that should be considered among the foreign players. Probably one of the best left backs in the league, in National League, really. So very good pickup for Buller. And then of the local Fijians, I'd probably say to keep an eye on Christopher Wasasala. Very interesting player. Played for Labasa in the Fijian League. Something of a cult hero over there. So I imagine there'll be some rotation between him and Roy Krishna to an extent. Yeah, of course, I don't know if I actually probably mentioned it, but yeah, Roy Krishna makes his return to Fiji. I'd say this is still pretty far off the second tier of Aussie. Like, this is probably in about National League, New Zealand National League level, which isn't quite on par with sort of the top NPL leagues. Like compared to Oz Championship, no, there's very few of these teams that are actually competitive, if we're being honest. But yeah, Roy Krishna returns to Fiji to pull on the shirt for Buller, and yeah. Next, this is a team I'm sort of very unsure about. I don't know a lot about the PNG football outside of some of the more famous names like David Brown, who infamously just sort of fell off the map a few years back. Oh, that's a fun fact. Oh, was he playing? Was it the Hong Kong game? I think it was. But yeah, PNG Hikari, very interesting squad. Captain of Hikari United, Eric Joe, who's a Brazilian centre-back that signed for them back in 2019, I think it was, has been around for a very long time. He's brought in a couple of other Brazilians to fill out the squad. One, Kaue Silva, a striker who has scored 6 goals in 10 years. So I'd be keeping an eye out for him and just see how he goes this season. They've also poached a couple of very handy OFC players from the OFC spots. John Alec and John Orabulu, the Vanuatuan midfielder and Solomon Islander striker, both quite prolific for their national teams. But yeah, just to be able to just pull those from rival teams at a similar level and bring them into your own squad is just a very good move on their part. And then Raymond Gunemba, who isn't of the quality of Roy Krishna, but is of that same generation. I believe he's like 39 years old. He's scored a lot of goals over a lot of years for Papua New Guinea, and wouldn't be surprised to see him pop up with a couple of winners during this season. Yeah. But again, the squad, as you can probably see, the squad's quite large. It's filled out by a lot of under 20 players who I don't believe are technically registered. It's more bringing these players into the environment. Yeah, good point, Command. This is actually one of the few teams that have no New Zealanders whatsoever. So, yeah. Well, even no signings from New Zealand, I believe. Moving on to Solomon Kings. Famously had a couple... Well, I say famously. I don't think too many people actually cared about it, but a couple of placement players at the Auckland FC reserves for a while, including Gordon Iro, young centre-back from Central Coast Solomon Islands, not to be mistaken for Central Coast Mariners. A lot of potential for a player from that area. And then, of course, the infamous Raphael Leai, the wonder kid of OFC that everyone thought would lead the Solomon Islands to victory against New Zealand in all their predictions because they were trying to be different. No, but for a real Raphael Leai, the whole thing pretty much hinges on him for Solomon Kings. If he has a good season, then Solomon Kings will have a good season. But if he struggles, then the whole team's going to struggle. Yes, they do have one of the better kits. A lot of the kits have been pretty meh. I'm a bit disappointed. But yeah, a couple of Solomon Island regulars in Philip Mango, Atkin Kawa, filling out the team. And then they brought in Jez Lofthouse from Wynnum Wolves. So yeah, very unsure how this team is going to pan out. It's either going to be... I'm not too sure. I'm not very familiar with NPL Queensland. So he could be a gun. He might not be. Who knows? Yeah, it feels like they're just going to wait and see how things go. Yeah, the Buller kit was rather disappointing. And then moving on to South Island United. They put together a rather handy team. The infamous El Professor leading them. Yeah, the South Island training kit is pretty nice. They brought back David Yu from his stint at Auckland City for the Club World Cup. Well, they've actually brought in quite a few Auckland City players now that I mention it, including Christian Gray, Jackson Manuel, young midfielder from the Phoenix Academy, ended up at Auckland City for a stint and looking to break through at South Island United. Ryan Foyt's brought in from Sydney Olympic, was very prolific in NPL New South Wales, and will be looking to replicate that form and attempting to lead SIU to a title. And then Pakistani international Haris Zeb, but he had a pretty strong season for Auckland City in the Northern League and National League, and broke through for his country and started playing. A few other interesting names floating about in there. Yeah, Buller FC, apparently the Fijians are coming about 1,000 at least is what I've been told. So I'm very excited to see that turn out. But yeah, there's also, in the South Island squad, there's also Samoan Dante Mariner. You got a few Christchurch United boys and the likes of Riley Grover and Ollie Van Rissel and Dutch keeper Stephen Van Dyke. I'm confident with crowd numbers. I'm very confident that they can get some very strong numbers when they're in the islands. I think the crowds will look a bit kind of shit over in Auckland because I don't think many people really care about the competition here just yet. But I think the islands will be absolutely keen to jump on that. I'll be going to the Vanuatu Buller game beforehand. But yeah, what else is there? Oscar Van Hattem, another Wellington Phoenix player, or former Wellington Phoenix player that's come back to try and rebuild his career, the stint here. And yeah, they brought in Aussie defender Jacob Kramer, I think, from Wynnum Wolves as well. So, very interesting squad. I think the overall level of the squad is solid. Like they'll be top. They should be top 3. No excuses really. And if Foyts gets firing, they're very much real contenders for the title. Yeah, and then speaking of top 3, South Melbourne, the Australian Championship winners. Yeah, so again, this is a team I don't really know a great deal about. I'm familiar with Sebastian Pasquale from his time at Western United. Yuki Ichida scored a few important goals for them in the Oz Championship. Max Mikla and Nahuel Bonada were their top contributors in attack as well. And Marko Jankovic was holding things down at the back. There's a couple Kiwis in the squad. Luca Coveney, who's appeared back on the map after disappearing. Honestly, I don't know if it is Lampard's son. I couldn't tell you. I didn't do that much research, so I assumed it was just coincidence. It's normally the case, but who knows? But yeah, Luca Coveney appears back on the map after disappearing when Western United folded for a bit there. And then Auckland United's Ishvir Singh is a part of the squad as well. So yeah, again, they're an Oz Championship side. That's Sebastian Pasquale. Yeah, he's the Ajax player. Where was I? Yeah, so a couple of Kiwis there floating about. They should, realistically, being an Oz Championship side, they should be finishing top 2 bare minimum. Absolute worst, but again, we don't know what the plan is. I'm not too familiar with the squad. This may be a bit more heavily rotated compared to what their normal NPL Vic squad was. Yeah. Yeah, good old knee injuries. But yeah, that's pretty much wraps up for South Melbourne, I feel. Tahiti United. They're a bit of a enigma because they haven't really gotten many foreign players in. However, they do have probably the second strongest Oceanic league in terms of quality behind the New Zealand National League. So these guys are probably the big dark horses of the competition. Jackson Gardner, Birkenhead keeper, and likely a net for them. Matteo De Gramel back from France. Well, he's had a few stints at clubs like Le Havre and Rodez, so he'll be returning. Tedai Bremond is a player to keep an eye out for. I believe came back from, I've forgotten the club now, but he was over in one of the top French academies and came back. Bradley Louise was playing for the Saint Etienne under-17s last season, so a couple of sleeper players there that could turn out to be very good, as well as Tiani Tehau, who a legend for Tahiti, the closest thing they had to a Roy Krishna. He's going to be he'll be the main man for this team, and yeah, they're just a bit of a weird one because they could finish 7th, but I feel like they could also, if they have a good run, finish 3rd. It's a very... I can speak French, yeah, that makes sense then why he signed. But yeah, it's a very sort of... Their ceiling's quite high while their floor's quite low. Yeah, and who's the other? Atale is also a New Caledonian. So they brought in a couple of French-speaking Polynesians, and yeah. And Ratu Waranavalu is also Fijian, so yeah. Yeah, so again, like, they're going to be very either 3rd or 7th kind of thing, you know. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind a Tahiti circuit next year. Yeah. Though I'll probably be targeting Christchurch, I can't lie. I'll probably do a week down for the football and then maybe a week again in a van trundling around the South Island. I'll figure it out at a later date. But yeah, Vanuatu United. This is a mixed one. I think they've recruited very well in regards to foreign players. I think Matt Acton is an absolute steal. Fantastic signing. I think picking up Owen Smith, National League MVP, another great addition. But other than that, there's not a lot going on with the squad. So yeah, they're going to be relying heavily on those import players. those two in particular, but there is some quality there. Geordie Tassip, Christchurch United striker, bit of Southern League experience as well as OFC Champions League under his belt. Otto Ingham, Auckland United winger, should hopefully contribute something going forward. The attack overall doesn't look terrible, but I am a bit worried about the defence. There doesn't seem to be a great deal outside of Ramazani unless they do something like push Owen Smith to left back, which probably wouldn't be particularly beneficial to the team in attack. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. They may look to go for maybe a 3-back or a 5-back with Owen Smith as a wing-back. But yeah, Jason Thomas, Geordie Tassip, Tony Kaltak, probably the 3 Vanuatuans you want to look out for. Yeah, I do have worries about this game for Vanuatu because Hamish will remember the article he pulled up. I think it was like 10 players turned up for the first week or two of pre-season, and they've just sacked the coach. It feels like there's going to be 1,000 Buller fans there. It feels like a game primed in Buller's favour. But yeah, now that we've got through the teams, we'll start cracking into predictions. This is basically how I think things will pan out. I think Buller will likely batter Vanuatu. I think Buller's just got too much quality. I think Vanuatu's a bit of a rocking ship at the moment. I think Matt Acton will be the only thing that really keeps that score down. I think that Auckland FC South Island United game will be a good one. I think they're two very similar level teams, and it'll be very close. 2-1, 3-2. There'll be a goal in it, I think. And then South Melbourne, I think they should cruise past Tahiti, really. Yeah, and then South Melbourne should realistically cruise by Tahiti. They're a more cohesive unit with previous experience with each other. They should realistically cruise through these fixtures in the first round. And then Hikari Solomon Kings, I think, are very similar in quality. I can't really separate the two. It's one of those things like whoever's firing on the day will take it. But I do have a lack of confidence in Hikari's attack if it is built around Kawe Silva. It's never promising when your main man has 6 goals in his career. I think it's a little disingenuous on the quality of Tahiti United. 5 goals, this isn't like Vanuatu versus South Melbourne we're talking about. Tahiti have a record for being, a solid unit. So I don't think South Melbourne will thrash them, but I think they should beat them relatively comfortably. And we'll move on to my ladder predictions. Yeah, it's hard to say at this stage because we haven't really seen anyone play, but this is pretty much what I've thrown out there. I just don't think Vanuatu United have the depth to really go deep in this competition and win games. I think 1 or 2 injuries, maybe a bit of fatigue, and then next thing you know, Owen Smith's being rested and Cardona's being rested, and I think it could get ugly quickly for Vanuatu. I think Solomon Kings suffer from just not really having any foreign players. No one to really rely on outside of Lofthouse and Leai. There's just not the depth there. And then PNG Hikari, they're a weird one because they're a solid team on paper. However, I had a look back at Hikari's record over the last sort of 10-15 years, especially in OFC Champions League. And the one time they made it out of the group stages since they won it in 2010 was when they had I think it was a Samoan, a Cook Island, and a Solomon Island team in their group, when there was the other group had a Fiji, Tahiti, New Caledonia, and New Zealand team. So I'm not hugely confident in PNG Hikari being a major force this season. Tahiti United, Bull FC, again, like I said earlier, I could see those two teams switching. I could see Tahiti finishing higher, finishing lower. They realistically, I see Tahiti being relatively solid. I just don't know if they have the firepower to... most of the teams will be working off of players returning to their local teams once the OFC Pro League is over. But Tahiti United, I think, could struggle with a lack of sort of real firepower that the top 4 teams I have here have. Because you go to Bull FC in 4th, just a very solid squad built. They've got handy defenders, handy midfielders, Roy Krishna up top, some handy attacking mids to surround him with, and a great goalkeeper. They realistically should be getting top 4, but again, we know nothing about the league. Bull FC, honestly, if they hit the ground running, they could be pushing top 3, top 2 even. Now, South Island United, I think up top, they're fine. I think they got Ryan Foyts. If they can keep him fit, they'll be fine for goals. They've got some solid defenders in the likes of Christian Gray and Jacob Graham, Jalen Rodwell. However, their midfield is a bit light for my liking. They just don't really... There's no one there that I look at and go, oh yeah, he'll lock it down. Jackson Manuel, decent. Charlie Beale, decent. But you look at the midfield that the likes of South Melbourne and Auckland FC put out, and it's just, if it comes to a possession game, then I could see them getting dominated. South Melbourne, again, I don't know enough about the team to outright say first. Because to my knowledge, they do have quite a few under-20s, under-21s in there. So I'm hesitant to put them up top straight off the bat. Pasquale, I think, will be, like I said earlier, he'll be massive for them. Uchida, it'll be very interesting. Auckland FC, I have top. Well, but no, I think Auckland have the. In terms of balance, I think Auckland and Buller are the 2 best balanced teams. I feel like we could put out 2 11s with the same with the squads, and Auckland FC would finish very high with either of those lineups. I don't know about Buller yet. It all hinges on how fit Roy, what sort of level Roy Krishna's at. Because 5 years ago when he's 33, absolutely putting them top 3. But he's 38 now. He's had a couple of big injuries. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on managed minutes to, get the most out of him. So I'm hesitant to really push them high up until I see how he goes in those first few games. Back to Auckland. You look at our striker options. We've got Falls. If Falls gets injured, we've got Donkers. If Donkers gets injured, we've got Imitade, who's been to 7 Club World Cups with Auckland City and whatnot. Then you look at the wings. We've got Liam Gillian, who for a good while was giving solid right backs in the A League a run for their money. And I don't think there's really a right back that stands out to me as someone that's really going to be able to lock him down. On top of that, we've also managed to sign James Bayliss, Lockie Bayliss' brother, the Newcastle midfielder, from Marconi Stallions. And I think that's a signing that's going to be huge for us. Oh, nice. That's good to hear about Krishna. James Bayliss, I think he's going to be a big player for us. I think him, Motakudis, it's just, there's a high level of quality across that core. I do think we're a little bit light in centre mid, but we can always call on like a Finn McKenlay or an Ollie Middleton if in worst case scenario. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for me. What I'll do is I'll just drop the link for the Melbourne City watch along. Yeah, but they haven't, like, South Melbourne on paper could, but the thing is they're missing like half their squad. Like, yeah, because the thing you got to remember is they're a semi-pro team, so a lot of their guys don't, like, there's only so much time off that they can get. Because they had the same issue, I think, with Auckland City players where they burnt most of their time off the Club World Cup. So some of them missed out on OFC Champions League, some of them missed out on Intercontinental Cup. Like, yeah, it's also turns it into a very long season for South Melbourne, as they'll be playing football from January to December now. I'll see how I go for a weekly recap. Like, work's kicking up again, so I'll see how we go. I might do one after each round, after each circuit. So I'll just see how. I found a Kickley.net is where I found the graphics. So I just tweaked those and yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'll definitely consider doing like a post-circuit roundup. Something like that. I'll see how I go. Figure things out as it goes along. Yeah. But yeah, I'll wrap it up there. Yep, so that's just the link for the Auckland FC Melbourne City watch along. Yeah, I'll look at doing something like that and yeah, figure it out later on. Cheers. Yeah, I'll wrap it up there. I'll see you guys